Chase, what is happening? It is Wednesday night. How are you feeling?
Fine. I'm feeling fine.
That is the right answer. The wrong answer is listed that we are not going to be talking about any Front Mission 3. You have said fuck it to that game.
Fuck it's a little strong, but yes, I have stopped playing Front Mission 3, and I'm fine with that.
That's fair. It is the 18th of February, 2026, and we are at our February deep dive. If you are unfamiliar with what a deep dive is, it is our attempt to do just that. Deep dive into a topic. It could be a piece of hardware. It could be a magazine, which is what we're doing tonight. It could be a video game. It could just be something of our interest where we are presenting that to one another. And we've done a few of these, and I really enjoy it because Chase, I don't know if you know this. We're old. I'm much older than you, but we are old. And
that's true. That's true.
We lived through a lot, and it's nice to be able to talk about things that we remember, holding sometimes the physical version of the magazines we're looking at through archives right now. So it's one of the cool things about us as a show. We've got a lot of decades of playing video games underneath our belt. We've been around for a lot of these events. We've seen a lot of these things come and go, and it's nice to be able to look back and share some of those experiences with one another, because Chase and I met only 10 years ago. So we've got a decade under our belt together, but we don't quite have the zeitgeist of cafeteria talk on some of these magazines.
I feel like there's always something we learn about each other.
Yep. Every time we
doing one of these, where it's like, oh, I didn't know you played that game and had reference for that thing.
Yeah.
It's not something that's ever come up in the decade that we've known each other.
Yeah.
But wow, you really are. Like, I can imagine the day where Bobby went, oh, Chase read all those Archie Sonic comics? Jesus Christ. What kind of friendship did I develop?
I thought we were just going to be like, oh, I like chili dogs too.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
weird.
Oh, Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, that's a cool game. And he was like, yeah, but did you know about Princess Sally Acorn? It's like,
what do you mean Big the Cat has a size 17 shoe? How do you know that?
Yeah.
Anywho. Yeah. Deep dives are fun. We've put a lot of effort. That was one of the bigger changes for 2026, where we're going to rotate through a few topics each year. And I'm really excited. I've been looking forward to this. We kind of went back and forth on what we wanted to do. We're going to be looking at Electronic Gaming Monthly issue 163, which was published 23 years ago this month. And I'm excited to dive into it. I got a lot of notes to thumb through with you. But before we do that, not about what happened 20 years ago, but what happened just a week ago, if that. Chase, there is a brand new video game that we checked out this week on our Casual Monday stream, which, if you're unfamiliar, we play video games on Monday night, grab bag style. This one, though, felt pretty proper for what Casual Mondays cut its teeth on. We played a new turn-based strategy game called Mewgenics. Maybe you've heard of it, listener. It's only the most played, I think it's the most concurrently played roguelike ever on Steam, which is crazy to think about. They had like a peak of almost 200,000 people playing that. This is the latest game from Edmund McMillan. You might know Ed from his time spent with Super Meat Boy and The Binding of Isaac. He makes games that the internet is very precious about, and Mewgenics seems to be right up there with the other ones as far as people's love and admiration for it. It has taken the internet by storm. They said they made their entire budget of this video game, which, mind you, took 12 years to make, back within the first 3 hours of it being on sale. So it's doing really well.
Yeah, within the first week, they've also eclipsed 1 million copies. Like, it is doing better than I think they ever expected.
Yeah, 100%. I've been watching some clips with Ed recently, and he is on record saying it might not be my favorite game I've ever made, but it is the best game I've ever made. I think, like, mechanically, technically, like, he thinks this is his best work. I've heard it's huge. I think that he said people have put hundreds of hours into it, play testing it, and haven't seen all the like crazy combos you can do. But, you know, instead of waxing poetic, you and I saw it in action on Monday night. We played it. I've had quite a bit of time with it. I think I've got like 6 hours into this game right now. We spent an hour together. This is available on PC only right now, so there is a limited exposure for folks to get to it. But every time I play it, I'm like, wow, this is just a really clever game. It was hard playing with you because I was trying to like kind of just talk overly about it, but I wasn't spending too much time deeply reading through things and building it out. I kind of built a throwaway team for the stream just to show you what was going on. But when I'm just like by myself playing that game, I've had some very cool moments of just, wow, this thing's coming together. Like this is a cool upgrade. Wow, I've got a build I wasn't even going for now that makes a lot of sense. And I think the writing of it is probably like the most abrasive part of it. Like you've got some feelings about the art style of it as well. It's a crass game. It's a gross game. It's not pleasant to look at often, given the subject matter, but there's a hell of a video game underneath that facade. And I'm really enjoying so far what I've played. What were your thoughts after seeing it in action?
I feel like the worries that I've had about it, or the trepidation that I've had about it, was only confirmed.
Sure. And
And
those
to
were
your
the
point,
looks of it, right?
it goes beyond just the looks, but it's the aesthetic qualities of it for sure.
Yeah.
And maybe even some of the philosophy that goes into those aesthetic qualities. Um, I want to start out by saying it does look like it's a very mechanically dense and rich and interesting game. And it's a genre that I like, turn-based strategy. I have certainly enjoyed games that have used that in the roguelike setting. Into the Breach is definitely in my top 10 games of all time, if not even higher than that. And this is a game that definitely plays with some of those ideas and expands on some of those ideas. And I've also talked about my love of The Binding of Isaac, one of Macmillan's previous works, and that game is also very precious to me, even though I still don't love the aesthetics of that game as well. But it's a game that at the time, which when did Binding of Isaac first come out? Like a decade ago, like 20 years ago. It gets
Was it?
It's
It was
been a
before
while.
2010, right? I'll pull it up.
Yeah, please do. And that game was also incredibly special to me, and I played the hell out of it, and I got a bunch of the endings. And
September 28th, 2011.
Okay, and that would have been the original that I didn't even play. Like, I didn't play it until.
Did you play
it came out on
Rebirth?
Vita.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would have been
I believe I played Rebirth.
2014.
Right. And there's something about looking at Mewgenics and knowing that they've been working on it for so long, and knowing what games were when they first started working on this game, that you go, this does feel like a game that is really, it has a tension between the past and the present. Like, this is a game that looks like a Flash game, that looks like Binding of Isaac in a way.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of those same aesthetic qualities. It has a lot of poop and pee and garbage and guts and birth and afterbirth and just gross stuff all around. Your cats hurt themselves, and you don't ever euthanize the cats, right? But you do, like, send the cats away, and some people are doing or implying that they're doing weird experiments on those cats. And so there's just a lot of icky kind of stuff that goes along with it, that back in 2014, back in the early 2010s, I think
it felt riskier. It felt edgier.
Yes, and I think we found that edginess interesting, and that subversion to be a cool new thing. And in 2026, there's just something about this that doesn't feel subversive. It just kind of feels a little old hat, and I feel like I'm a little past it. Now, there's also, me having matured through that time. We were young adults when Isaac first came out, and when Super Meat Boy first came out. So I think there was something about, these are the video games that we like. We're rebelling. We like this cool stuff. This one has poop and pee in it. Isn't that cool? And there's something today when I look at this and I go, I just don't think poop and pee is all that interesting anymore. I don't have the love for it that I did in the past, and it's really made me struggle with a game that I think is mechanically interesting and is in a genre that I like, and should be my type of game in basically every single category. But also, its aesthetics and its philosophies are pretty antithetical to what I want out of video games and what I want out of entertainment these days. And it's just left me incredibly torn. And I will say, it being only on PC has really helped me go, that's not something I really need to worry about. That's not where I like playing video games. I can just kind of wash my hands of it and leave it to the people who like it. And that's totally fine that they like it. But you have seemed to really latch onto it and have really enjoyed what it's been giving you. I want to hear more about your experience.
Yeah. Couple follow-ups on that. I think it's fair where, like, you know, video games are art. They're subjective. Like, that's the thing that we all like come back to, is like, Chase and I have very different opinions on a lot of games. This is one where I think there's a lot of overlap on shit that I'm into and Chase I know is into. I think this is one of the like far more interesting one of these that I've played in a really long time mechanically. Full stop. I think that the systems and the loop that you get to go on in this game are really fascinating. I like the legacy, because when I'm getting cats, so the whole loop is you can take up to 4, I believe, cats out on an adventure. It's a pretty typical run-based looking map. You can put collars onto your cats that you are progressing through the story, which are traditional classes, your mages, your hunters, your thieves, warriors, tanks, etc. But all cats are born with a passive ability and then an active ability, and there's traits that you can inherit. And so every time you go out on an adventure, that's it. Like this, you can only do this run with this group in one point in time, because after a run, a cat becomes retired. They come back to the house. There's a probability that they're going to mate. If they do mate, there's a probability that they're going to pass down dominant traits. And so you can start to think to yourself like, wow, I really want to put this stuff into this build. I really like what this cat's hunter ability has been. I'm hoping that I can maybe pass something on back at the house to the next one. But you're also raising these cats and working on their comfort and the breeding mechanism to continue building party members. So you're in a way trying to put together and build like this perfect cat that you would want to have and continue that legacy. So there's a lot of weird shit on
and multiple perfect cats. Like because the system has you bring in 4 at a time, and because the collar system allows you to assign classes to each different cat, the cats will, as you said, have different active and passive abilities that they have naturally. They'll also have like stats assigned to them as well. Like this is a cat that is definitely probably geared more towards being in a melee class. So I'm going to turn it into a warrior. I'm going to turn it into the hunter that has more of some of those qualities to it. And so you can certainly, as you play the game, go, okay, I have kind of bred this cat, or I've bred, through a number of breedings of cats, I have gotten to a cat that I really like, that has really good traits on it, and it's going to be able to continue passing down those traits, and I can keep breeding that one kind of quote unquote perfect cat, and keep getting good versions of it, or even crossbreed it with another one that's also been really good in a different way, and find ways of making potentially even a better cat that then becomes the cat that you want everything to come through. And I think that stuff is really interesting from a mechanical standpoint. You're tinkering around with stat points. It rewards progression. It rewards putting a lot of time and thought into the game. It rewards experimentation to see, hey, what happens if these two things get put together? Well, that didn't work out that well, but that's okay. That cat's retired. I don't even have to use that cat anymore. I still have the 2 parents that I think are good, and I can find ways of using them in a different way. I think all that stuff is really cool. But then I'm using aesthetics as a very general term, but the aesthetics of this has become like we are just force breeding these cats in this dilapidated house, and we're like the ones that don't go well, we throw into a trash bin that then gets sent off to other people to do experiments.
Well,
on
you're not putting
cats.
anything in a trash bin, so there's a tunnel.
I'm pretty sure you put it in like a tube, right?
Yeah,
like it's
that goes down into the city.
It's a big cylindrical hole in the ground. It looks like a trash can to me.
That thing also introduces a whole other mechanic to it, because I think this is in a way a creature collecting game, and you got to catch them all. We've been told that our whole life, and there's even a lot of tongue-in-cheek references to some of the yesteryear stuff with Pokemon. But to your point,
of a lot of different games, in fact,
100%.
I think it is really cool how referential and reverential that Mewgenics is to so many different games. Pokemon just being one of them. Like there is an item in this game that is the rare candy, and you're like, oh, I know that one. That's from Pokemon, and it does a very similar thing that the Pokemon does. But there's a ton of games that it's pulling from as well.
Totally. That though, because you have these legacy fighters, right? You have these cats that had like maybe your best run, and those are now retired cats back at the house. But there's also this whole thing where it's like, hey, you can't really progress any of this other shit unless you donate cats. And so you have these townsfolk that are going to give you shit, whether it's home expansions or items for your house, even new ways to breed, it sounds like, down the line. So everybody starts off, hey, we just need one cat to kind of introduce ourselves. And then it becomes, now we need 25, and everybody needs 25 cats. So you risk, do you want to keep these legacy fighters back at your house that can pass on traits, or do you want to pass them along to expand your future stuff even more? So there is a lot of killing your darlings in this game in a lot of ways, but I'm not here to disagree with anything you said. It's a gross game. Like, I aesthetically, like, not one of my favorites to look at, but I can tell you with full confidence that the mechanics of this, what they've built, far outweigh any discomfort or even just downright I don't find this cool stylistic of it, because it feels very early internet. It feels E-Bomb's World. It feels Spencer's Gifts. Like, it's that type of shit, which I've lived and cringed my way through, and I look back awkwardly at with some nostalgia, but I don't feel as precious about it as a lot of millennials our age do. Like, there's a lot of people that are very fixated with this time and place of like the late aughts to the early 2010s, and they have just,
it's going to be very funny when we go into this issue of EGM and
100%.
see a bunch of stuff that I will say, that's fucking cringe. I can't believe we thought this was cool.
Correct. So I think it's, you know, I'm not saying that there's a flat circle with Borderlands fandom and like what you would see maybe coming over here, but I definitely think that there's a big overlap. I will pause though. I think some of the writing is a little bit more endearing to me than that in a Borderlands, and I cannot stress enough, if you are into turn-based tactics and just team building, like, this is a don't miss in a lot of ways. I can't remember if I already said this. This is the other point that you brought up, and we can move on to the magazine here. Ed was on another interview or just responding to a comment on TikTok or something, and he said, they're like, why don't you have it on consoles yet? And he's like, let me explain, like, it's just not as simple as rubbing my hands together and making a console port.
Totally.
He's like, one, I hate that. I don't want to do it, and neither does Tyler. So we're not going to. That's where we're going to get a publisher. They will do the port, and they will put it out. He's like, we're having really...
And that's how Isaac worked.
Totally.
Like, they have had this opinion their entire times. And most developers, especially indie developers, have this opinion. It's a lot of fucking work. It's a lot of boring work to make a port of a video game that works on a different platform. That's why a lot of these places really liked Unity. It allows them to export out lots of different versions of their game in just one thing.
Totally.
So yeah, I totally get why it's not coming to Switch tomorrow, and I'm fine with that. But I know it has to be annoying to developers to have to field that question all the time. Because they're going to keep getting it.
Here's the other question I have for you to wrap this up. They're talking with publishers. Do you have in mind a publisher that you think would be good for this game?
I mean, my first thought, I don't know if it's necessarily my best thought, but my first thought is Devolver. Like, they're a
100%.
place that has taken games that have unique and even subversive writings and aesthetics, and they have definitely made those things work. I feel like Devolver generally wants to find a little bit more homegrown than I think Edmund McMillan is at this point. I don't know if they necessarily... I think Edmund McMillan is maybe a little too big for Devolver at this point.
Yeah.
So I could see them looking for something that's able to handle a bigger release like this. But I do feel like it is potentially in Devolver's wheelhouse to make something like that happen.
Yeah. And I'll say I've played this on my my ROG Ally, and it was great. It already has full controller support, so I don't think this is going to be a problem. Will almost assuredly be on the Switch. we'll see who puts it out. They're working on that right now. He said it's going to be months, so maybe around holiday, if we're lucky, we'll see this, because I think that would be in their favor, because I would imagine that this is going to be near game of the year conversations for some people. And
yeah, it's tough. Like you wanna stay in the zeitgeist enough to usually put it out in the same year because people are talking about it. But if a port is just not a priority for him, and that's fine. I totally understand that it's not. Um, then it's kind of whatever. People are going to keep asking the question though, and that's yeah, it's tough.
So that's Mewgenics. I imagine we'll play more of that on stream at some point in time, but I will just tease it out right now. If you are listening to this on a Friday or watching us live now, this upcoming Monday, we're going to be playing some demos on Casual Monday. So Mewgenics will get back in the rotation, but the Steam Next Fest starts, and we're going to be checking stuff out there. And we'll probably have some good stuff to talk about in the weeks to come from that event. But enough about Mewgenics. I'm liking it a whole lot. Chase's hesitations are relevant and still present. But as we've been talking about, it's a deep dive. We're here to talk about the Electronic Gaming Monthly, issue 163. We have it pulled up here for those who are watching live. We will be jumping to some pages and sharing some insights from that. Chase, why don't you kick us off and talk a little bit about this magazine in general, and maybe where you'd want to start taking a look?
Yeah, when we were talking about doing another magazine for a deep dive, the question was, well, okay, what do we want to do? We've covered a couple of these before. Is there a type of magazine that we want to look into? You had mentioned, hey, Dragon Quest VII Reimagined just came out. Maybe we go find copies of magazines that talked about, I think at the time it would have been Dragon Warrior 7.
Yep.
That would have come out on the PlayStation. Maybe we find an old PSM or something that's talking about it. So we looked a little bit into that, and we had some ideas. And then I was recording an episode of my other podcast that I do with my good friend of the show, Piers Corshane. And I could see in the background of his video, I was like, "Hey, is that a gaming magazine back there?" And he went, "Oh yeah, they just moved." So the idea that he just had this magazine, this loose magazine out behind him, I was like, "What's that about?" And so I had him pull it out, and it was this copy of EGM, an issue that I had not read. Like I was not a subscriber to EGM at the time. I don't remember this cover or anything, but he just pulled it out and said, "Yeah, sometimes I just like grab one of these and
take the edge off
cover to cover eventually." Yeah, just look at what gaming was like back in the day. And well, that's basically what we do.
Yeah.
With these deep dives. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe we just do this one randomly. So went out and we found this magazine and did it. And I have to say, it turned out to be incredibly coincidental for some of the things that are in here. I went like, holy shit, I can't believe that's in this issue.
Yeah.
What perfect timing. So maybe Kismet is real,
Yeah. Well, where should we thumb to first here, my friend?
Why don't you start? What compelled you about this magazine?
Well, I think my first note, I just kind of did like a overview note here where I say this issue seems to be a moment in time when we were all believing the internet would be a good thing for most things. Phones were still phones. Sony and Xbox were still up and coming to Nintendo, and online gaming was still an upcoming feature and not a requirement. This magazine,
yeah, there's like a whole section in this magazine that's like, hey, what else can you play with the GameCube modem, right?
Yeah.
Like we know you can play PSO, but like, is Mario Kart going to be on this? And Xbox Live is going to have Halo 2 and all these other games. Like there is definitely we are still in the infancy of console online gaming. Obviously PC gaming had online functionality
for sure
a long time before that, but we're starting to get into this and it's becoming a bigger thing. There's like buyer's guides for headsets and stuff like that. It is very interesting to go back in time and go, oh yeah, Xbox Live wasn't really a thing at the time, or it was just becoming a thing. It's kind of crazy.
The thought continues with just like, this magazine feels like such a moment in time preserved from the cruel reality of how much we depend on our phones now and how disappointing the internet can be, not to mention how disappointing internet gaming on your phone can be. So I think that there was a lot of optimism at times in this, or like naivety in a way, or, you know, like I just feel like reading through these at the time, I remembered how I felt about, there's an ad in here in particular I'll get to with Xbox Live. You kind of talked about the headsets, where I was just like, I mean, I can just play Halo with anybody at any given time now. I don't have to wait for my friends to be available. And I thought that was so cool. And I was like, wait, I can just talk to you on the Xbox now. Like, we can just play from here. Like, you can be at home, I'll be here. And I didn't realize that I was so excited about the ease of use, that the LAN party that I had grown to love was literally kind of being removed. And like, it's like that banging on the wall in Interstellar. It's like, no, don't go. It's just like, it's like you are literally like something that you care about and you really talk about fondly with your friends on the podcast. It's just, I don't know. That was kind of like, I was reading this and I was just like, man, I was so optimistic and hopeful. And I had a belief that like having all things consolidated in my pocket and being online all the time would be a good thing. Like, I thought those
there's a bittersweetness to it, right? Of like, we certainly enjoy many of the quality of life functions that we have these days, and the broad amount of online gaming possibilities we have. Like, being able to have systems that don't even really take discs or media of any kind, because you're just downloading games from the internet. That is not something that was even considered back in this time, outside of phones. And even for the phones, like, not really, and they weren't very good.
No.
It is fascinating to think about how different a time that was, but also there is a nostalgic quality, and nostalgia might even be the wrong word, because I don't feel like I'm looking back at that and thinking. I feel like nostalgia is so much like being blinded, right? Like, feeling like the thing from the past was better, but it's not. Like, the nostalgia goggles, they're blinding you there. But I do think, and maybe this is just like a further one more step of nostalgia, but in some ways I do think it was better better before. Like, not just my perceptions of it was better. I think it actually was better in some ways. And looking at some of these games and thinking like, man, online gaming has ruined us in so many ways, and has led to so many bad outcomes, or lesser outcomes than what some of the games we're seeing here. Like, even seeing some of the crap in the reviews here, you're still going like, there's something about this crap that feels more genuine than the crap we have today.
It's not slop, it's crap. Those are different things.
Right. Yes.
Like, we can't, like, slop and crap are not the same. And crap is good. I like having crap. I give a crap. I don't give slop. I don't want slop. I don't like that. And so one of the, speaking of being dirty, one of the things I do recall, and I don't know if it was in this magazine for the first time, which I don't recall having this, but I know this ad, and I called this out. So on page 6, this is the ATV2 off-road. I thought this was a cool, like, it's such a fun way of doing an ad. And it reminded me of an episode, another deep dive we did, where we talked about the attitude specifically that you would see in printed video game magazines around this sort of thing. Like, there's an edginess to this, and it's unapologetically a video game. It's not trying to dress it up as something else. It's still bringing you to something, you know, that you get muddy when you do off-roading. And to like say that you're going to have that experience. Like, I just think that the layout, the composition, man, we used to be a society, and we've strayed so far from it.
And to that point, like, this ad does feel a little edgy and subversive, but it also feels clever.
Yeah.
In a way that I don't know if it's the next page or next 2 pages or something. There's a Crash Bandicoot
right here
ad. Yeah. And that ad is also, you know, edgy and subversive, but I think it's fucking lame.
Yeah.
Like, it's like there's a difference between the ad that we just looked at and this ad, where I go, you know, one I still think is cool today, and it ain't this one.
No. Like, I would I could see that. Like I could have that framed. I would have that ad framed. I have no reverence for that game, but this is the thing. Like, you knew what it felt like to see that. You knew that it was unapologetic for what it was trying to do. It's more of the feeling of what it was like to be into this subgenre of culture at the time. Like, this captures that feeling very well for me. And I think that we all have sat in rooms just like that, feeling fantastic playing these games, where like this just felt more of like the dumb video game stereotype with the crash stuff.
Right.
This is what gaming felt like. And this is like, I'm nostalgic for this. I'm cringed by this. And I think that's the difference here.
Yeah. Why don't you turn to page 37?
Okay. Jumping ahead, baby.
It has a GameCube on the page.
Yep.
I think it's
Got
like
her there.
half a page. Yeah.
Yep.
I thought this page was interesting to me, obviously, because it is talking specifically about the Game Boy Player attachment for the GameCube. I have a feeling that when you got to this page of the magazine, you went, "Oh, Chase is picking this one, right?
100%.
Like, this feels like a gimme."
The only thing that made me hesitant was it wasn't a Spice Orange GameCube, but I thought for sure.
Well, yeah. Or a Spice Orange. They made the Game Boy Player in Spice.
Oh, they did. They made this. You could get that whole setup.
Yeah. All of it Spice.
You have a Spice Orange, right? Is it on your shelf?
I have a Spice controller,
but not the console.
Right. The console and the Game Boy Player that were in Spice were Japan only. The controller did make it to America. And I also have a Spice Orange GBA, which was also Japan only. Part of me wants to get a Spice GameCube, but
why don't you?
What am I going to do with it? because it's just going to sit on a shelf, and I guess all these other things also just sit on a shelf. But
it's still real to me.
That seems like a silly thing to buy. But I found this article interesting, at least, about the Game Boy Player. The Game Boy Player was the first one of these I didn't buy. I had a Super Game Boy. I had lots of ways of putting your handheld video games onto your home console, and I really liked that idea. I liked being able to have that switch. We talk about with or Sony talked about with the Vita era, this idea that you would be able to take your MLB The Show game that you were playing on your TV, and then you download it to the Vita, and now you're taking it with you on the Vita, and you're playing your same season with your same team. And isn't that cool how you can go back and forth? You could do that. You could just do that in this era. You just put your GBA game in here, you play a little Metroid Fusion, then you take it out and you play Metroid Fusion on the go with you, and you just take your video game with you wherever you go. It was a better time. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, a better time. I want to jump back really quick before we get too further ahead, because I don't know if, did you read into, where's it at here? I think page 14, One Man's Trash. Do you recall that one?
I don't think I did. No.
So this is basically I think it's one of the editors here talking about they got something.
Oh, you mean Shoes? Yeah, Shoes letter from the editor.
Yeah.
I did read this. Yes.
And this is basically talking about, hey, video games just aren't for kids anymore. And there was something I thought that was interesting in 2003, and I'd love to know if you felt this to be true or not. So he goes on to say, believe it or not, adults are reading EGM. Our readers are college students, professionals, military personnel, business owners, prisoners. I probably could have done without mentioning that last one here. It's no longer a kid's hobbies, folks. I think there's truth to that at this point in time. I guess I would have felt more than, I don't know, like considering the age of where we would have been when this magazine was coming out, I kind of feel like I was a target demographic for this magazine at the time. Like, I was a junior in high school. I had been playing games basically since I could sit upright. And I find it's certainly more adult, and I think that's what they're going for. But I think that there's even like more at the time, like the average age was like 28 of their reader, which I thought was a little bit higher than what I would have expected.
Oh, well, their average reader was 21, but the average the average gamer is 28.
Thank you.
Is what
Yes.
his point was. And I think that's a good point. But I think you also I love Dan Shu, by the way. Dan Shu went on to make Bitmob after the EGM days. I wrote for Bitmob. I love Dan.
Yeah.
But this letter from the editor is not all noble, right? Like, yes, I think his main point of, hey, did you know, actually, we do have a more adult fan base that reads this magazine, and video games aren't just for kids anymore. And some of that does feel smart and correct. But it's in response to a bunch of people writing in going, hey, when you did your 9 naughtiest games feature last episode, and you're showing off like all the BMX Triple X is being talked about still. We did the Game Informer issue that was about BMX Triple X and Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball, and this is basically around that same time. And so while yes, I think Shu has a point of, hey, video games are actually more mature these days, and they can tell mature stories, and our readers are adults, and the video game players are adults. Like, this is something that is, a little bit more sophisticated than you're giving it credit for. I think that's a good point that is undercut a little bit when, hey guys, it's in response to our booby issue that came out last month. And I was like, I think you might be undercutting your point just
ever so
bit,
slightly.
Man.
Wasn't there some stuff here? I'm trying to remember if I had anything on here about it. Like, I think that they were talking about stuff with like violence in Grand Theft Auto also, correct? And just like kiddie systems, where this was still the point where, I mean, Nintendo to this day, I feel, has to shake this, but like Nintendo is referred to multiple times in this about being a kid system. And
sure,
I think there's an interesting contrast with the big story around Resident Evil 4 at the time. And like, that felt kind of like a moment to sit upright a bit with Nintendo and be like, I don't know, like Nintendo's got the like cutting edge, most recent like Resident Evil coming out. It feels pretty mature in what it's going for at this time. And I think that people calling this a kiddie system and having that sentiment still very much was what was going on at the time, for sure. The other thing I just want to call out really quick is on page 24. There's somebody who sent in, let me see if I can zoom in on this. Vice City Post Office here. And it's just so funny to think about it. Like, they talk about this experiment where they basically ended up the bus being here, and it's so genuine, and like they are so proud of this thing happening, where they kind of walk through what you would do with it. And I just wrote like, hey, EGM, clip that. Like, we're in a society now where like your gameplay is constantly being recorded. This was put and published in a magazine. Would have this been a viral clip of somebody doing this at the time? Like, we're in such a different place now where the way that we consume is so quick. And I appreciate that they took the time to send this in. They have their email address here with it. And just, I don't know. It's just weird to see how we used to preserve those moments, like taking pictures of the screen with a digital camera or something of the sort, like sending it into a magazine. I've been playing Vice City a lot lately. So one time I got the idea to launch a coach bus down those stairs of the street heading east, like basically talking about this place in the game. And then they took a picture of the bus being stuck there and sent it in to be published, where that could be like then a Twitter post or MySpace post or some shit. I don't know. It's just fucking weird and funny where we've lost that.
Do you think Sean has still kept up the email address of blinkcornfan@AOL.com?
I bet people are fighting tooth and nail for that email address these days.
Do you think he still likes Blink 182 and Corn? I bet he does.
It wasn't a phase.
Good for you, Sean. I hope you're still killing it out there. Bobby, would you mind going to page 42 and 43, the spread?
42, 43.
I think this is on your notes too, because you definitely mentioned something that you wanted to talk about with this one. So yeah, this spread here is about cell phone gaming, because this is pre-iPhone time. So there's a lot of questions about cell phones and the games that you can play on them. but it's EGM is also a very Japan friendly magazine. They really like
Sure.
Japan. I think there's some magazines out there, especially around this era, that were like, Japan makes boring, shitty games, or they haven't made good games since Mario, or they made kiddie games, and now we're dealing with like Medal of Honor and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of magazines in the US that did this. EGM was very much certainly more thinking of the Japanese market, or at least more fair about it. And so one of the things that they did was just kind of, hey, look at some of this cool shit out in Japan. And so this is a feature that shows all these different cell phones that are out there, and the games that you can play on them, and the good stuff and the bad stuff about them. Some of these, I believe, are Japan only, but one of the ones they definitely mention, it's at the top of the page 43, is the N-Gage. And I know you wanted to talk a little bit more about the N-Gage.
Yeah, I don't know how I came across this years ago, but I remember the N-Gage. I worked at Radio Shack also shortly after this magazine came out. It was like around 2004, the summer of 2004. So all this, like, cell phones were still really exciting. I even wrote a note on, like, you remember when they had personality? Like, all phones just kind of look the same anymore, and phones were wild, like flipping and opening and doing weird shit. And the N-Gage felt like it was being designed for me. It's like, cool, I like video games. I like having a cell phone. This seems like the best thing of it. And I was playing Snake and shit. But I came across a video of Jeff Gerstmann reviewing this thing. And he's a baby in the video. But I sent it to Chase and I just said, hey, this is going to be a required viewing. And you're like, I know exactly what page you're talking about. I think Jeff got a little bit more airtime with that review than normally, just given the obsession with mobile phones at the time, but also like the bizarre nature of it. What did you take away from watching him play with that phone?
It reminded me a lot of how fucking terrible a lot of this era was for handheld gaming. Like it's so easy to look back and think, yeah, man, Nintendo had this shit figured out and nobody else did at all. Like Nintendo could just take a walk and could do better than these guys, because the N-Gage was just such a pain in the ass. Having to open the entire back of the device, that you're basically cracking this thing completely open. Like it's not like you're just trading out a game pack that you do for a Game Boy or something like that. You have to like take off the whole back like it's a fucking garage door opener or something, and then you have to take out the battery, and then underneath where the battery goes in is where the game slot is for a cartridge. So you take that out and then have to put another one in and then put the battery back in. And Jeff's point, which is an incredibly good one, is that wouldn't be that big of a deal, except you've taken the battery out, which means that the system is powered off at that point. So now you have to re-turn on the system, which takes about 30 seconds to do, which generally isn't that much time, but this is a mobile device. Like this is something that you have with you. You're on the bus, right? Like this is the time that you play these kinds of games. And if you want to switch out your game, you have to, take about 30 seconds to take off the back and take out the battery and put the new game in, and then put it all back. And then you have to take another 30 seconds for the system to turn back on. And then you have to take even more time to get to the game feature, because ridiculously, the N-Gage, the whole point of the fucking N-Gage is it's a phone that can play video games, and they have buttons for the fucking radio and for all they have dedicated buttons for goddamn everything except to play your fucking video game.
I know.
You have to go through a big menu to get to the game part. Like, what are you doing?
We used to really care about the games we would play. I'll tell you that much. The other thing that I find interesting on this page that I made a note of was the cost of gaming. So I'm going to zoom in here. They've got a handful of games that you could get at the time. And one of the things that we talk a lot about today is, subscription jail. I don't know if you remember this, Chase, but a lot of these mobile games back then, you didn't buy, you rented. And they had long runs. So like Sega Monkey Ball was $4 for 30 days. And Kick Champion, $3, 60 days. Some of these games, though, Pac-Man was just a $5 yours forever. I think we talk a lot about what we used to quantify the cost like of a mobile game, what it should be and what you should get and what your expectations should be there. I also know we're at a point now where, Netflix, Apple, others are paywalling behind subscriptions yet again, like access to these games. I think your dollar certainly goes a lot farther in those realms today, but
yeah, I mean, even think about the inflation that people talk about in game prices. Like a console video game went from $50 to $60 to now $70, and sometimes even more than $70. And that's a lot of fucking money. And yet think about mobile phone gaming, and it went from paying for 30 days for $4 to a point where if your game costs more than 99 cents on the App Store, it was just,
people were
what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
No one's ever going to buy that. The barrier to entry is too high. Like, we all made fun of Square Enix for trying to put Final Fantasy Tactics or whatever on a phone and charging $10 for it. Like, you can't charge $10. This is an iPhone. You're not allowed to charge more than $1. Nobody will play your game. And yet, not too long before, people were paying $4 to play a really shitty Monkey Ball game for 30 days, and then they lose access to it again.
But it felt at the time, it's just like, holy shit, my phone can play Monkey Ball. Like, I was so perplexed at the time, like with I can do this versus should I do this? I want to page back briefly to 38, which this is one of, I'm sorry, not 38, 34. I had a note for 38, but for 34, this was a really big feature story for them. This is the future of evil. And I definitely had played Resident Evils at the time. For me, it's always interesting to see things right before they blow up. And knowing that Resident Evil 4, and we're at this point now where we're knocking on 10 days before Requiem comes out, where Leon's coming back yet again. Mm-hmm. It's just always interesting, like, to think, like, did I feel at the time that this was going to be as an important entry in that series and such a tentpole game for Cap? Like, this is arguably like the biggest game ever in that series. It's certainly been remade the most. I know people are very precious about it, but I think it was an interesting read to just take a look back at, like, how were we feeling about this game then prior to it coming out and being this huge success. The other thing I found really funny on here, especially if we're looking at it from a filter of today, upper right corner, let me see if I can get it up here on screen for folks. Maybe I can. It's a little cut off there. I can't move it over. Sorry, folks. But it says, will these games come to Xbox and PS2? No and yes. Well, maybe. RE4 will remain a GameCube exclusive, but RE director Shinji Mikami, told us the other titles may come to other systems in the future. Cross your fingers. It's just weird to be at a point in time where we're talking about, will these come to PlayStation? Will they come to Xbox? Especially for like a Resident Evil.
We are still in, maybe not exactly peak console war, but we are still in the console wars where the Halo 2 is only on an Xbox and nobody else can have it. Nintendo has all of their games, and Sony has Final Fantasy. Like, you don't get to play Final Fantasy on these other systems. Fuck you. And now it's unheard of to have a game just come out on a single system. Like, even the most hardcore of hardcore, like, this was only for this franchise. It's developed by fucking Sony. Like, MLB The Show, developed by Sony, is now on an
Halo's
Xbox.
coming on PlayStation this year. Like, Halo's
coming to PlayStation.
Like, hell has literally frozen over.
The sacred cows are gone for sure. Absolutely.
Pierce, thanks for stopping by. Hope you have a good one.
Yes.
Hope the game continues to be good for you as well.
It's going quite well, by the way. I'm trying to podcast and watch a basketball game at the same time. And both are going extremely well, I would say.
That's where you and Pierce met, correct? Like, you met at college.
Yes.
Okay. So they're alumni is playing. That's Pierce from more famous things than the Casual Hour friendship.
That's Pierce who inspired this entire episode.
Yeah.
He was the one with the magazine.
He was the man with the plan.
Showing up in the chat.
Is there another page you want to go to, or do you want me to pick another one?
We don't have to go to this page, but just talking about like big things, things that would be much bigger than this magazine maybe even gives it credit for, or doesn't even know how big it's going to be. On page 51, it's just in one of those tiny little boxes at the top of the page, like you mentioned, is, hey guys, it looks like Square and Enix are merging. That's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like the two biggest developers of Japanese RPGs have just gotten into bed with each other. Like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy are now the same company. Holy shit. And we think about how giant that company is these days, and how influential that company is. And it gets very little fanfare here outside of just, yeah, it looks like these two are merging. That's kind of weird.
We had no idea. That's the thing. Like, this feels such an innocent thing. I'm going to do a quick run where there's 3 Star Wars things that I'm going to point to in succession here. So the first one is on page 83. Let me get to there. It's a very good Jedi Outcast. Also, this stood out to me. Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast is what made me get an Xbox. And I played the shit out of that game. So really like that art. Thought that was cool. We're going to jump to page 98 for some real edgy Star Wars takes, y'all. Let me see if I can zoom in. There is a preview. So this is continuing the KOTOR segment, and I want to call something out on that with you. But they have up here at the upper left, publisher, developer, all this stuff, players, and it gets down to the good. The good is the total lack of Gungan characters. The bad.
Yeah, we were absolutely in fuck Jar Jar Binks mode still.
Oh, yeah. The bad. The total lack of any characters from the movies, which Chase is probably now thinking like, fuck yeah. And then
no, what do you mean? That's a good thing.
The ugly. The total lack of good dialogue in episode 2. And it's like, they're just, they're dogging so hard. But
yeah,
on page 100, just one more page over, we get to a little thing where BioWare, let me see if I can zoom in on that. It says, BioWare hopes KOTOR has what it takes to be Final Fantasy for Xbox, going back to that poll you just had. My question, Chase, as you are knee-deep in KOTOR in 2026, did BioWare's hope that KOTOR would become the Xbox Final Fantasy come true?
Yes and no. In a way, yes, because this game was hugely popular. It got a pretty hugely popular sequel. It turned into a pretty hugely popular for a time MMO, and then of course the franchise itself has not been that big of a deal, and is coming back nowish in some form or fashion. But KOTOR led to Mass Effect, which I would say is I don't think you can separate those two franchises, because there is so much connective tissue between them. That I would say that led to a very long run of giant RPGs that were incredibly well loved until Andromeda. So I do think there is cause to make a statement like that this is, the West's version of Final Fantasy in some way, or this was BioWare's version of Final Fantasy. And I think for a long time it was, and I think you can even go further down that lineage of, well, it's Mass Effect, but it's also what's
Anthem.
What's their fantasy one? No. The Dragon
Jade Empire.
Shit. No,
Dragon Age.
Dragon Age, thank you.
Yeah.
Like Dragon Age 2. And of course they're also pulling from what they did before, Neverwinter Nights and things like that, to make KOTOR. But this did feel like a big inflection point, and was a giant Xbox exclusive that Sony and Nintendo just didn't have, and I think was a big system seller for that console.
one of the last things I have here, because I know we're getting close to time, and I hate to do it because it's been out for so long, but I did find a correction, and I think that it's still worth noting 23 years later. So on page 153, there is a spelling error that has been preserved. So if you go there, you will see at the top, it says Panzer, which is strange because I distinctly remember that being Pantsu.
Not quite the same.
But yes, Pantsu Dragoon is what I remember it being, where we come from. And
yes, just slightly different.
I've
got a couple other pages I would like to talk about. Let's go to page 58, please. This is the rumors page. I thought this was really their quartermen. This is something that EGM would do, just like having a dedicated rumors section. And now that we're 23 years later since this magazine came out, I went and looked up the answers to whether these rumors actually panned out or not. And I found that to be pretty fascinating.
Hell yeah.
Pull it up for myself here as well. All right, so just reading off some of these headlines. Visual Concepts goes to 989. The idea here was that the team behind the 2K sports video games, Sony was going to buy them and make them part of their 989 system, and then have nice exclusives for Sony sports games. That didn't happen. Visual Concepts would sell to Take-Two in 2005. So they did not go to Sony. They went to a different company. We have GameCube to end up like the N64. That one's basically true. It's still true, right? Like Nintendo makes games for themselves, and everybody else has to figure out something else.
As far as like
in some ways.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yep, okay. I get that.
Yeah. Details on the next Oddworld, the third part of the Oddworld quintology. We never got the end of that quintology, by the way. But they're talking about the third game, and this one was really fascinating to me because they talk about how weird it's going to be, which obviously it's Oddworld, but apparently it involves a half monkey, half horse, centaurish man character who's got a psychic connection to, get ready for it, his boat. Yes, I said boat. Your job is to transport some things down a river in said boat. And so what they're talking about is Oddworld Stranger's Wrath. Yeah. But some of those things are correct about Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, and some of those things are not. The boat is nothing. I don't know where the boat came from. There's no. There might actually be a boat, but it certainly doesn't have any sort of relevance in the way that they're talking about here. But the main character, the stranger, is that kind of half centaurish horse thing, and you find, like, that's the twist of the game, is that you learn that the character actually is a centaur and has a second set of legs, and you're able to completely change the way you play that game. But there's no mention of it being a first-person shooter. There's no mention of the quote-unquote live ammo of the little animals that you shoot, because that just wasn't a thing at the time. But it's really funny how here we're talking about Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, but we just didn't know what it was at the time. So some of these rumors come out. There's talk of a new 3D Splatterhouse game. Well, there would be a new 3D Splatterhouse game, but it came out in 2010. So you still have to wait 7 years after this rumor to get your 3D Splatterhouse game. And if I remember right, it was forgettable. So there's also this box here, this black box that says the hot question: Square and MMORPGs. There's a question here, or there's a rumor here that there is another MMORPG that Square is developing that is not Final Fantasy and is not a sequel to Final Fantasy 11. And so I was thinking, what the hell would have that been? And I couldn't really find an answer. Square and Enix, as we mentioned, were getting together to become a single company. And the only MMO that I could think of that I could look up and find is called Concerto Gate from 2008. That game is Japan only, but it had a North American beta before it was canceled. But that game is a sequel to an Enix game, an Enix MMO called Crossgate. So because they weren't one company yet, and they're still talking about Square as a separate entity, I don't think that's what that is. So whatever this is probably just ended up getting canceled or ended up becoming Final Fantasy 14 in some way, or was parts of it became 14. But Square has not put out an MMO that isn't Final Fantasy. It's only 11 and 14.
Yeah, I didn't think that there was anything myself. Interesting.
Yeah. And then the bottom here, they do talk a little bit about Dragon Quest, or they're still calling it Dragon Warrior here. But Dragon Warrior 8, they're saying, hey, that's going to come to PS2. And it's going to come to America. And it did. It came to PS2 in 2004. So cool to see that some of those things panned out. Some of those things were completely different than what we thought they were. And some of those things just completely got canceled and shelved, and nobody ever talked about them again. So it is funny to see the rumor mill on some of that stuff. One last thing I wanted to mention before we go. I know we're already a little over time, but please go to page 150 and 151 for me. That spread.
I am there.
Bobby, this is their game of the month, which they gave to a little game called Skies of Arcadia Legends.
Am I on the right page? This is 154. Hang on, let me back it up here. That's 150. You said 150? There it is.
150 and 151.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm there.
Cool. I don't know if you remember this, Bobby. This is the game that landed on the wheel for me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
for this month. Yeah. So this issue that I did not know anything about and was just randomly sitting on Pierce's shelf had both a big preview for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which is a game I'm playing right now for my YouTube channel, and the game of the month that they're reviewing is Skies of Arcadia Legends, specifically Legends, which is the GameCube version that came out in 2003. The Dreamcast version came out a couple of years earlier than that. So this is the version I'm playing. And
a week before Leon's back with Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Like that, all that stuff.
There's some other. Go ahead.
No, there's just crazy that like how much overlap we've had with like current shit.
Totally. Absolutely. And there's some other big games that they certainly really loved here and gave good scores to, and could have potentially been their game of the month, but they gave it to Skies of Arcadia Legends, which also I just wanted to touch on a little bit. I didn't want to talk about the games that we played or put it in the What You Been Playing section, but I did start Skies of Arcadia Legends before I even opened the magazine. So I still got jump scared when I saw that this was happening in the magazine itself. But I've played maybe about an hour and a half of that. I'm still extremely early, but I will say that game, I think that game is cool. Like the one of the cool things that I've been seeing as I've been playing it is even when you're in combat, you have your characters and you choose what they do, and there's a speed stat that's happening. So all the characters and enemies do their attacks based on their speed stats. You don't know who's necessarily going to go first and who's going to go second there. But you get to input the moves. But what happens is when your character is going through their animation of just doing, okay, I'm going to do a basic attack, the other characters are still quote unquote fighting. Like there's animations going on and you can see them like swashbuckling. It's a game about air pirates, sky pirate kind of stuff. So you can see them fighting each other, even though that's not doing any damage and it's not affecting the battle in any way, but it makes the battles feel really dynamic.
That's way cool.
A big battle's going on here and I'm attacking this guy, but she's over there with her boomerang and fighting that dude. And even when this guy's attacking me, that other guy's quote unquote attacking her. And it's such a small thing, but it makes the game so much more interesting than some of the other RPGs that I've played. It's just a really cool note, a really small thing there, but I think it adds a lot, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to play more of that game and reporting on it. But it was just such a big jump scare of a coincidence that the two video games I'm playing right now are both mentioned in this one copy of EGM.
That's insane.
That we didn't even, we kind of just picked out of a hat to talk about tonight. For the
and it was behind Pierce.
Was really cool.
That's crazy.
And it was because of Pierce. That's true.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, Chase, thanks for going back in time with me here. If you've enjoyed this episode, y'all, like it, share it, tell somebody about it, what did you like from this magazine? Do you have a fondness of any games or hardwares, or did the future act as kindly on the thing that you cared about back then as it did for some of the things that we're playing today? But if you enjoy what we do, we talk about video games every week on Wednesdays. You can find us everywhere that podcasts happen, and we do a bunch of different types of episodes. Deep dives once a month. Next week's a monthly preview, I think, or maybe it's what you've been playing. Can't remember. No, it's what you've been playing. And then we also have a Game of the Year stuff, but we play games on Mondays, and this week we played Mewgenics. We talked a bit about it tonight, so go watch us play it if you are curious about what that game looks like in action. We've done a pretty good job of showcasing it. And Chase was talking about Pierce. Pierce was here tonight with us. Chase, what are all the crazy things that you and Pierce are doing? What are the things that you're doing without Chase or without Pierce or me?
Well, I mean, we saw it in the magazine today. I'm playing through Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic on my YouTube channel, Chasing Gay Plays. It's a series called Go Play a Star Wars. And we just messed up some people on a ship that brought us in. We taught them that they should not do that. But a big revelation happened. The big twist of KOTOR happened in this last episode. So it's out now. You can go check that out. And now I think we're actually on our way to Manon proper. Bobby, do you remember anything about Manon on KOTOR?
Is that where the big trial takes place?
Yes, that's the trial and the fish people.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of combat, so I'm really interested to see how I feel about that. I remember not liking Manon.
I did not like it
when I first played it.
Yeah, but
I bet I'm gonna like it a lot more now that I'm, less interested about the combat and more interested in the talking parts of this video game. We'll see. Yeah. So go check that out. That's been a lot of fun. And then yes, my co-host Pierce Corshane, who is the inspiration for this episode and showed up in the chat a little bit today. He and I have another podcast that we do called Pilot Program, where we watch the first episodes of every television show ever made. And our new episode that we're actually recording tomorrow is going to be on one of my favorite television shows of all time, Mission Hill, which is an animated show from two guys who were executive producers for a handful of seasons of The Simpsons. They went off and did their own thing. It failed pretty spectacularly, but I think they did something really interesting, and I'm looking forward to talking about it on a podcast. Pierce, awesome. I think, is aware of the show, but I don't think he watched the show, or watched the show when it was new. So I'm really looking forward to getting his take and having a big conversation about it. It's going to be a good one. So go check out Pilot Program. Bobby put the link to that in the chat as well. So
hell yeah,
good stuff.
Well, that's it for us. We had Mewgenics on Monday. We did our deep dive on EGM issue 163 tonight. Next week, we will be playing the Steam Next Fest on Monday, and we'll have a What You've Been Playing. No, we're not going to have an episode next week. I apologize. We're taking next week off for the show.
That's right. I forgot
about
that.
We'll just be doing a stream on Monday where we'll check out some demos. So stop by on Monday, hang out with us, and see what games are